Okay, so a couple of things before we start today's video. The first thing, thank you to all the lovely people, hello, that watched the long-awaited total rip-off of Content Cop on Foodie Beauty. I know for a fact she's seen the video. She has talked about it. In fact, she wasn't disparaging in the slightest, really. Thank you, especially to the person who donated to me. I very much appreciated it. Second, my dear friend Director Arcata is very close to 1,000 subscribers. Please consider helping him by subscribing to him. His channel link is below. The third thing I want to do is talk quickly about an update to a story, the one involving witchcraft, where a Ugandan mother used it to silence her detractors, the police, the solicitors, by wrapping curses and names in tongues and putting names in lime, because the bitterness would shut your mouth. Well, this person wanted to do that because she was being charged with female genital mutilation on a 3-year-old, her daughter no less, who she claimed had climbed onto the kitchen counter to get a cookie. As I stated then, I don't recall being a child climbing up onto the counter to get a muffin, there being any razor wire on the floor that would only hit me, touch me, or harm me in my genitals. So, calling bullshit now. The update to the story is, she's been jailed for 13 years, 11 of which are for the female genital mutilation, and 2 more years for indecent images and extreme pornography. I hope you enjoy the next decade of your life in prison. Witch. Am I the only one that wishes we went back to the old ways? Sink or swim, you know. Moving on. I'm going to make this the final video I ever do on this person. I do apologise for those who have seen the previous ones and are like, this is getting Daddy 05 kinda now, with the number of videos you've done. I'm not Joy Sparkles though, so don't expect 5 videos a day on one tiny detail. But there are some recent rumblings concerning Shamima Begum that I think we should address. The first thing we should address is the recent passing of her son. I am not going to abuse anything about that child. I wanted that child to come back here anyway. I said it in previous videos, I felt the child was entitled to that, because at the time the mother was British. The child then should retain that and be brought out. Unfortunately, we could not get the child anyway, which is according to the Foreign Secretary Jeremy Cunt, who has outright stated it was not safe to rescue the baby at the time, because she is in the jihadi wives area of a refugee camp, and her area is a detainment camp. The problem really is that they had to weigh up whether the rescuers' lives were worth risking to get the child, and they decided no. This is from an interview that came on the Andrew Marr show, and he did say that although several journalists had reached the camp and spoken to Miss Begum, quotes, "We have to think about the safety of the British officials that I would send into that war zone, because it is still a war zone to this day. Yes, ISIS are pretty much at their last little bastion, and they are basically fucked. But they are still kicking, and that is a problem. And unfortunately, this child has passed. That is the 3rd child Shamima has lost, although I would now state, rumoured to have lost. At the time of recording, many articles have yet to outright state whether the child has died or not. Confirmation might be required, I'm afraid. With the passing of this child, many people have rallied against Sajid Javid, blaming the Home Office for revoking her citizenship. But I would point out that I don't recall him trying to do this for the first 2 children she lost. Because, you know, ISIS. Seems a bit dense to state it that way, but I would point out, it is quite obvious. She lost the right because of her involvement. It is also worth pointing out that Shamima Begum is not the only one who has now lost her British citizenship. There are now 2 more ladies who are being detained in Syria who have lost their citizenships. Their names are Rima and Zara Iqbal. These 2 ladies left for Syria more than 5 years ago. Unfortunately, their husbands are deceased after fighting for that caliphate. But the children, again, there are children involved. These children could be taken to a British consular service, of which there isn't one in Syria anyway. The children could then be repatriated to the UK, which I fully support. Again, I am not against the children coming back, because it's not like they have much of a choice, which brings up a rather interesting dilemma because of the circumstances surrounding Shamima Begum, because she was 15 when she made the decision to leave. So you're in a bit of a bind here, where she committed fraud, left the country, joined ISIS, or married someone who was fighting for ISIS, and then when ISIS were summarily decimated, after years of turning Raqqa into rubble, has begged to come back for her son's sake, but not because she felt guilty. To go back to the Home Office before I move on to something else relevant to this, Diane Abbott has actually blamed the bride's baby's death on the British government, where she tweeted her response to the news, placing the blame on Secretary Sajid Javid's door, where she tweeted, "It is against international law to make someone stateless, which she was not, and now an innocent child has died as a result of a British woman, Bangladeshi woman by chance, being stripped of her citizenship. This is callous and inhumane. No, it's holding someone responsible for the decisions they make, and I stand by what I originally said. If we could have gotten that child out of there, I fully supported it. As always with you, Diane Abbott, you show a remarkable intellectual ineptitude and dishonesty, because I am almost certain you knew she was not stateless. We know this because of her father, and to go to Bangladesh because we may as well. Caliph Mirza Masroor Ahmed said that any Muslim country should take Begum in. He has called on Bangladesh to show sympathy and take her in. Bangladesh being renowned for its medical healthcare system called the NHS, totally. I don't think Bangladesh should. I think she should stay where she is, because that's where she belongs right now. If she's committed a crime in Syria, she should be punished in Syria. We should not be looking for ways to get her out. She is responsible for this. Again, the dilemma of her age and the decision she made does crop up, but I think we've now gotten to the point where I'm afraid you're just going to have to live with this one. I feel like that's a tautology. Ignore it. You know what I mean. Unfortunately, you have made your bed, and no, we're not going down that path. To move on to something else that was relevant to all of this, Shamima Begum's father, and this is where it gets all a bit peculiar for me, he's, after stating he agreed with the British government, flipped, to the point where he has apologised for what his daughter has done. It's important to note, yes, you are apologising for what she's done, and that is commendable that you would take responsibility for her actions, but you yourself within the video accept that she had done wrong whether or not she realised it. She kind of realises it, but thinks she should get a pass, which is where a lot of people draw the line. They take issue with the fact that she's not truly repentant for what she did, and I think that anyone who does something wrong should apologise. I don't care if she has to sit on the naughty step in perpetuity until she apologises. The words, "I am sorry for stealing a passport, I am sorry for abandoning this country to go and live in a caliphate that was illegitimate, that was creating and causing and inflicting terrible harm upon the innocent people." And you can't say they weren't, because while you were busy trying to say tit for tat, in the sense that when an airstrike happened it was okay to bomb an arena, other innocent people were still being taken, some being kidnapped and sold into slavery as sex slaves. Like this person in this video, there are jihadi wives within the camp that want to kill you, that have stated women are objects. That's it. How on earth is that a life you would want to live? You would give up freedom. Well, what we have for freedom anyway. You would give up our version of democracy. You would give up veritable luxury, safety, security, knowing that we as a country will look after you. You gave that up for some trumped up utopia because someone poisoned your mind enough that you were willing to believe that. Because of course, in the 21st century, you didn't have access to a phone to Google ISIS. Or did they call it something else? Maybe it was called Squeaky Bum Sex ISIS, which is a totally lovelier name. It's infuriating, really. As far as I'm concerned, Shamima Begum should stay there. Her child should have been brought back here. It is admirable her father has taken responsibility, but she has to take responsibility. Bangladesh shouldn't have to take her in, because again, she's in a detainment area of a refugee camp. There is a reason for that. And if the Home Office wants to remove the citizenship of other people, like the two Pakistani girls that I mentioned earlier, Rima and Zara Iqbal, then so be it. And for people like Diane Abbott and other MPs that have been tweeting from a moral point of human rights, responsibility is far more important. If someone commits a crime in a country, they stay there. they do not come back here to what can only be considered to be a fanfare from virtue-signalling morons like you. Anyway, I hope everyone has a lovely Monday. I will not, hopefully, ever make another video on Shamima Begum unless she comes back to the UK, which, yeah, I think I have a reason to at that point. And thank you all for listening.